person today will definitely enrich your lives. Okay, today we'll be talking with Brad, and Brad is a mindfulness coach.
Letting me and having me on the show. I'm originally from Canada, London, Ontario, Canada, and I currently live in Vietnam. And long story short is I had to go on a really deep integrative healing journey myself to help fix my mind and my body from a lot of physical and mental comorbidities that I was diagnosed with in my 20s. Part of that journey landed me in Asia. I did a really, really big, long, integrative self-discovery journey, self-healing journey, ended up in Vietnam, started doing corporate leadership training, and now that switched into what I do now, which is a mindfulness coach. And I also help teams optimize performance by improving their wellness and their well-being. And so it's really interesting. And my spare time is usually spent with personal growth, personal wellness, reading, learning, spending time with friends, doing meditation retreats, working on myself, and trying to optimize my physical, spiritual, mental, and psychological health. It's that's in essence me in a nutshell.
So it's you in a nutshell. But let me ask you this though, Brad. What do you enjoy doing though when you're with your friends? So, I mean, do you enjoy I don't know, ping pong? I mean, basketball or any type of sports that you enjoy? Something that you do that's kind of relaxes you. What is it that you do?
Um, I'll go with friends here in Ho Chi Minh City from time and time again to socialize and have a beer or two or something like that. That's always enjoyable because my relationships are very deep and we can really be ourselves and they're very intimate. And so there's a fluency between our dialogue that's just very unadulterated and very authentic and very joyous. And I love that. I also really enjoy physical activity. So not so much group sports, but I like kickboxing and I like going to the gym. In addition, I like traveling a little bit to some of the small towns here in Vietnam. And I have a bike that I can take and travel. So sometimes my friends and I do bike trips. Sometimes we do interesting things like that. And I run events. Believe it or not, I run pro bono free events around things like stress management and mental health and finding meaning and purpose in life. And that's really nice because it gives me a chance to build and get in touch with community. And I think that's so important for our well-being is to have good, open-hearted, intimate relationships with people where we can really be ourselves and learn and grow and support from each other. So I like to cultivate things like that as often as I can as well. And I find them incredibly rewarding. So again, yeah, that's me.
That is so impressive, Brad. How often do you sponsor these events?
I try to do about every 6 weeks. And again, they're pro bono. I'm just trying to help out. And I do them both online and offline. And we get a bunch of people together around a certain topic. It could be stress management or improving confidence or courage through fear, whatever it is. And we share. And I'm a professional coach and facilitator, so I'll have the material and the content, but I'll also facilitate the insight for people and the games that we play and distill some takeaways. So it's really fun. It's a good mix of professional exposure and a chance to utilize my skills, but also to build community and do something meaningful, purposeful, and enjoyable. So I really like it, actually.
See, that's excellent. But I have to ask you this, Brad. I'm just sitting here. I'm listening to you, and I've looked at your. I've seen that you've written a book on resume building. So that's great. I mean, wonderful. And have you considered writing a book about your current profession? Have you considered book writing?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm sort of working on the concept for my first book around this, which is going to illustrate my coaching philosophy and my model. And I've just about got it right. I don't want to make it too long or too short. And I'm going to start writing it probably after a retreat that I'm doing this weekend. So I'll be gone for 3.5 days on a meditation retreat. I'm going to come back, clear my head, open my heart, and I'm just going to spend the next week after that really working 4 to 5 hours a day on this book until it's done, essentially.
That is admirable. That is so admirable. And I want to tell you that so Brad, so you and I both, I'm doing the same. I'm writing a book as well. And I've been looking to start on mine for a while now, and I'm doing it this year, Brad. And I will probably end up with about 3 books this year. But I am so happy to hear that you're doing the same thing. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Good for you, Brad. But Brad, what brought you to this point? You came to a crossroads, I'm sure, like we all do. What was your passion? What happened in life? I just want to hear your story as to what made you pursue mindfulness, the mindfulness journey that you're taking right now? What pursues your passion?
Honestly, it was necessity. You know, I was so desperate to heal when I was sick, that I tried everything. I tried acupuncture, and I tried different forms of therapy. I tried juice fasting. I tried energy therapy and Reiki and massage. You name it, I did it. I was really desperate to get better. And it wasn't until I started to do really deep level meditation, you know, 10-day retreats, those Vipassana retreats that are 10 days long and 10 hours a day and completely silent, and mixing that with integrative somatic mind body therapy, that I was really able to get better. And so this in essence, it's kind of by accident. I never intended to move into this profession and try to help people with their mental and physical health. But I had to
Mhm.
learn and apply so much to my own life that it's
Mhm.
just sort of become a natural extension of who I am. And so, you know, I've been practicing meditation and mindfulness for 10 years. I see a couple Zen masters quite regularly. I've spent, you know, thousands of hours at monasteries and pagodas, really deepening my own practice with a specific lens to integrative healing when it comes to somatic therapy and trauma. And so I like to go to the deepest level of the body in order to heal and really transform from the inside out. And it's no quick fix stuff, but it is stable, profound, deep, transformative change. And it's really, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, and deep as well. I want to just ask you, let me ask you this simply though. Would you say, was it, I'm just curious, was it anxiety, or was it depression, Brad, or what is it that you were facing at that time? Can you
Yeah, so
just,
sure. I appreciate. Again, I suffered from mental health issues since I was about 13 or 14. And it went from very severe anxiety, almost to paranoia, to very, very severe depression. Um, and so it was a mix of both of those. In addition to, in my early 20s, about 23, I was diagnosed with 3 physical ailments. And for those with a large medical vocabulary, you might appreciate these. Number 1 was polysensory peripheral neuropathy, which was very severe nerve pain body wide, especially in my limbs, my legs and my arms. It left me really incapacitated, to the point where I actually couldn't type on the computer properly. I needed a voice to text software. That's how painful my arms were. Doctors also diagnosed me with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. None of those have a good prognosis in the West, and Western medicine doesn't really have a good approach for them. And so again, out of necessity, those things sort of created the perfect storm and created the desperation and the drive I needed to get better, because I was not going to live the rest of my life that way. Absolutely no way.
but you know, Brad, who are we're looking at your clientele, who are your demographics though? Is it mostly female, male, and what type of condition would you say that most of them are actually facing right now?
Yeah, so it's the people that I work with are always of the same genre. And I wouldn't say demographic. Incidentally, it's about 50-50 men and women. In addition, the vast majority of my clients, in fact, all of them are older than me. A lot of them are significantly older than me by, 20 to 30 years. And so that's not unusual. And so what I find is that when people come to me, there's always, let me articulate this properly. So when people come to me, there is always a drive or an urge or a desire to get better. There's this internal sense of, my life could be more emotionally fulfilled. I'm not in line with my purpose. I'm really not living the most authentically, and there's something missing. There's a desire for change, growth, wellness, happiness, whatever it is. And most of the people who see me, they've been relatively materially successful. And so they may be lawyers or doctors or CEOs or business developers or salespeople, whatever it is, their finances are okay. So if you look at their material success, they've usually done pretty well. But they've reached a point in their lives where they're looking for more. And they don't exactly know what that more is all the time. But there is a deep intuitive feeling like, my life could be better. I could be more emotionally fulfilled. I could be living a more purpose-driven life, and I could have more joy, harmony, and peace in my personal and my professional life. And so that it tends to be that group who are just urging strongly for change. Sometimes they don't know why, but then we go into the process of discovery to see what that is, right?
Okay, I have spoken with you previously about this, Brad, and even on a few days ago on my post, that was the question basically that was brought up about the differences between the treatments for female and males. And one person appeared on my post pretty much was saying that there is a difference, and that I needed to pretty much sort of keep my focus on females and children, because men are really not ready to face their challenges right now. They're not really ready for this. I gotta ask you, Brad, and I'm happy to speak with you today, because this has been really just this inquisitively on my mind a lot. And that is, what about men? Do men feel a little bit more? Are they more hidden, or is there more of a silence for them than for females, especially in your profession? Do you see more of a separation there?
It's interesting. I'm a very empathic, intuitive person. So at the core, men and women are really similar at the core. And so we always present, and we always dig into the core problems. They're almost always identical: abandonment or trauma, or unhealed traumatic memories, things like this, et cetera, et cetera. One of the big differences I've noticed is twofold. Number one, a lot of men take a lot of years of suffering before they have the courage or the desperation to seek help. And so when they see me, sometimes they're on their wits' end and they're really burned out. They are really burned out. And so this may be the first time, or maybe second time, often the first time, where they've really been able to emote and be expressive around what's really going on for them. And it could have been a couple toxic relationships that they were in, or they lost a job, or they can't handle the transition. And men tend to bottle things up differently than women. They don't have a lot of good environmental conduits to share, explore, and identify their sources of suffering. And so when we do, it can be very deep and very transformative, and sometimes very overwhelming for them. I've had men come to me, and it's literally the first time in their life, literally, they've been able to talk about a specific issue that's been bothering them for years. And it's quite sad in a way, but it's also extraordinarily rewarding to be able to empower them to even share that story. Sometimes there's such power in creating an environment where they're comfortable to share. And I can see the physiology in their face completely change after an hour just by talking about it. Imagine the release, 3-4 years, something's really been bothering you, and you finally get an opportunity to do it. And so men are always quieter. They'll send me a message in my inbox. Hey man, I'm going through some stuff. Do you want to talk? It's like they're always quieter. They're always apprehensive, and it's always more new to them. And so that's one of the biggest differences. The other difference too is the way I approach my vocabulary, my tonality, and I guess my demeanor with my female and my male clients. And so when I'm with my female clients, I can sort of embody more feminine energy, be far more empathic, sort of meet them where they are. And we have a really good resonance that way. Men, there's a bit more of a bromance going on. I'm soft, I'm kind, I'm empathetic, but it's like, what's up, bro? What's going on today, man? Let's fix your life. So there's just, there's a bit more of like that masculine polarity that comes in sort of the engagement, but men tend to respond better to that. If I say, hey man, you messed up on your homework, what's going on, bro? You're fired. Just like a little bit of a joke, right? So there's definitely a difference in the way I approach it in terms of tonality and polarity. But other than that, men and women, we're far more alike than we are different. I assure you that.
Wow. And wow, because I don't know if you've but even with, I don't know if some of the research that maybe you've done, or just being in a profession, but I'm reading it everywhere, Brad. I mean, they're making a difference. And saying that men being in leadership roles, more of a leadership, they feel more responsible for, you mentioned that, the community, for a family, for for a spouse, whatever relationship they may be in, and that's much deeper. It's harder for them, so they can't move forward as easily as women can. And I even had men to tell me this, as well as females. And that's what I want. But with you though, Brad, okay, with you and with yourself, though, was it that way for you as well? Was it a little bit because I know you started back, you said when you were around 13 years old? 13, right? Okay,
Yeah.
with you. Okay, okay. What about you? Did it happen pretty similar for you as well?
Yeah,
Your
I mean,
experience.
I'm 33 now, right? So mental health, that would have been, almost 20 years ago. Um, and mental health back then was still kind of weird. It wasn't really a thing. It's like, especially among high school students, like what high school student has mental health problems? So it was more so the fact that mental health wasn't really well understood, even by guidance counselors and practitioners. It was still a little bit bizarre. And so my support systems weren't as well integrated in Canada at the time when I needed help. In terms of the feeling you get as a man when you're sick, I think, to be honest, a lot of it's biological. We have this inherent drive to be providers and doers. And I think there's a societal component to that, of course, but there is also, I don't want to ignore the genetic aspect, which is just a drive to do. Men like things and doing and going out and playing sports, and we like to be active and running around and causing trouble and all these sorts of things. Not to say some women don't, but I'm just in general. And so when I was really ill, I remember some of the biggest pain that I felt was the lack of self-compassion I had for myself, and the sort of dialogue that would go on in my mind, like, I'm useless. I can't support my girlfriend. I'm going to be a loser the rest of my life. When am I going to make income? No, nobody was explicitly saying this. Okay. Nobody ever came to me and had this conversation. In fact, the people around me were quite supportive, but the internal dialogue I had was really, really toxic when it came to that issue of not being able to support the people around me and provide them safety, comfort, and resources. And I remember that was just, it just came from the depths of my unconscious, and that dialogue would continue and continue and continue. So it was really hard, really, really hard. And again, I think that's a component of our inherent nature. There's some societal aspects as well, but without question, it was difficult. That was one of the most difficult parts, was not being able to embody myself in that way.
Mm-hmm. Is it about what you just talked about? Now, you feel that your experiences definitely help to positively impact your male clientele.
Sure. Yeah. There's
Mm-hmm.
nowhere, it's extremely rare. I can't think of a time where I haven't been able to relate to a client or a trainee on some level. One of my favorite mentors always used to say, you can't take anyone deeper than you've gone yourself. Luckily, I've had a pretty edgy life. We won't get into some of the details in the show, but I've seen the edge of suffering in multiple different ways. When it comes to violence and suffering and pain and illness and all that, poverty, whatever you want to say. And so at least at some level, I can always empathize, and we can share our suffering together. And that means something, because they always go, oh man, this guy's gone through it too. There's a story that I love, again, and this is sort of the epitome in my mind of coaching. And a guy stuck in a hole one day, and you could substitute it for a woman, it doesn't matter. And he says, help, help, help. And the doctor walks by and says, hey man, I'm going to help you. I will be there for you. Do this, and then you can climb out of the hole. See ya, good luck. And the doctor walks away. And he goes, well, what am I supposed to do? Same thing. Help, help, help. Engineer walks by, looks down in the hole. Hey, bro, do this. You'll get yourself out. Trust me. You got this. Have a great day. Walks away. Third guy comes by. The guy, same. Help, help, help. The third guy doesn't say anything. He goes down into the hole with the guy who's stuck, grabs him, gives him a hug, and says, it's okay, bro. I've been here before. I know what to do.
Wow.
And so, sharing that the idea of shared suffering and being really, really engaged and having a high level of empathy with the people that I work with epitomizes, that story epitomizes that. I've been here before. I know what to do.
Wow. I was about to ask you, what would you say today if someone were actually seeing you, watching you, and wondered, it would I be a good fit for him, and who has he? How could he help me? I feel as if you've told us, but if I would ask you right now, what could you do for someone right now who came to you and said, I've heard your story, I've listened to you, but what do you think you could actually offer? Pretty much offer me today. I'm a female, I'm a male. Typically, from your background, your experience, what could you offer me?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been asked that before, and I always like to counter with a few questions. Okay. Because ultimately I can only offer what you're, where you're willing to go. It's like that old saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And so people really need to be ready for this work because it's deep, it's transformative, it's integrative, and it's no quick fixes. It's not short term. We go for deep transformative processes that empower you for the rest of your life. I'm talking healing, transition, and transformation. And so like a few questions that I would ask is, do you feel like you're existing but not really living? Just sort of going through the motions and you feel like you're denying a part of yourself. Is there sort of an intuitive draw from the inside to do something different with your life? A lot of people have this intuitive draw to change, but they don't exactly know what to do or where it's coming from. Are you lacking emotional fulfillment in your personal and professional life? This is big. People just aren't happy with their personal circumstances. They're not happy with their professional circumstances, and they recognize that this is not the natural way to be. There is more joy and meaning available. How do I unlock that? The last question I would probably think of asking is there a chance that if we were willing to explore and heal the parts of yourself that were stopping you from living your most authentic, joyous, fulfilled, and confident life, would you join me? And that's the most important question, which is there a chance that if you were willing to explore and heal the parts of yourself that were stopping you from living your most authentic, joyous, fulfilled, meaningful, and purpose-driven life, would you join me? And if they're ready, I know it and they know it. And you'll notice the name of my business isn't purposing or finding purpose, it's repurpose you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because by definition, what we're doing is we're taking something, who has intrinsic value, and we're transforming that into something else, a more authentic version of you, a more purpose-driven life, a more meaningful life, a more authentic life, whatever you want to call it. And that's what I do with my clients. And I also like to say, I help people remember their deepest potential, not realize it, because we carry the burden of trauma and pain and suffering our whole lives. And when we were younger, 4 or 5 years old, assuming that our childhood is relatively normal, we had this wonder, this implicit and explicit joy about life. We were free to be who we really were. And we knew how to listen to our inner voice, right? And not just hear it, we listened to it, we followed it, we honored it. And our intuition, our heart, was our guide. And so I help people remember their deepest potential by unburdening them from the trauma that stops them from being fully engaged in their life and fully present for their life circumstances. And we do that through a lot of different ways. Mindfulness is a big one, but there's several tools and techniques, quote unquote, that I use. And once we help them, remember their deepest potential through the process of building awareness, then we have to create what I like to call intentional alignment, which is how do we look at your internal systems and ensure that you're feeling better, your mindset's changed, your thoughts are in line with who you want to be. We look at your felt sense, which is your emotional state of being and the way you feel and experience the world around you. We look at integrating different parts of your body that have sort of been separated from the whole because of pain, trauma, abandonment, whatever it may be. And then from there, we start to realign, and then we sort of reimagine a different future. Okay, so now that I understand who I am a little bit better, and I know what I want, and I'm going to create the internal alignment, what do I need to do outside of myself? Is that change a job, change a relationship, move to a different city, develop different habits, whatever it is? Let's create good external alignment so we can facilitate that change and help bring to life this internal transformation. And then the last pillar of my work, which is taking inspired action. And I use inspired action for a reason, because when we do something that comes from the core of our being, it's like a natural extension of who we are. it doesn't take effort. So if I were to ask Marlene, what do you do that you absolutely love? And I'm going to ask you this seriously. So what is something you do that you absolutely love?
Write poetry.
Write poetry. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're writing poetry, can you imagine yourself enjoying something better? Is poetry just
more than poetry?
yeah,
Something
or just, yeah. So for example, when you're writing poetry, is that just Marlene being Marlene?
Just Marlene being Marlene, but I enjoy so many other things, but that's just at the top of my head came to my mind because I love to write poetry. I love it.
Sure. And that's inspired action, because that comes from the depth of you. That's an extension of your being. It's like, of course I'm gonna, yeah, I'll write poetry. I love it. That's just what Marlene loves. And you don't need to ask why. It's irrelevant at that point. It's just you are embodying your most authentic self in terms of in what I call inspired action. And so how do we have more inspired action in our lives on a day-to-day basis? Because that feels good. That feels grounded, and that feels aligned. And that's joy, that's meaning, that's fulfillment, that's purpose. And that's where I like to get people.
You know, wonderful. And what, just in a nutshell, I just heard you say that basically, just like you were talking to me, it's almost like you're talking with me and you bringing out all the joy there. And of course, there's pain there as well, Brad, but also you're looking at how can I take Marlene and recreate, like a recreation sort of, and take her on to the next level. And there are a lot of people out here, Brad, that need that. Seriously do.
Yeah.
And Brad, I want to tell you that, listen, I've really enjoyed talking with you today, and would like to, again, invite you to come back and talk with me again. I wanted to just give you just a brief moment to just, is any last thing that you'd like to say today about what you do? Just far away.
Yeah, I would like to say a last word or two. I hope that people, the listeners here, no matter who you are, where you're from, can begin to believe in your unbelievable capacity to heal your mind, your body, and your soul. And I really mean that. If we can get past our trauma, our pain, and learn to move in the world in a more meaningful, emotionally fulfilled, and authentic way, then we feel joy, happiness, and completion. And from this place of interconnectedness, where we're really in tune with our body, we're really in line, we're really aware, and we're taking inspired action, again, we learn to trust the process of our life. And that's a completely different paradigm than being afraid and worried and anxious and uncertain. And it is true that we experience our entire world from the inside out. The whole seed of our experience is our felt sense, which is just our feeling moment to moment. And so when we heal that, we heal ourselves, we heal our lives. And with that being said, if you'd like to do that, please feel free to join me and we can repurpose you. And it's thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely. And I will, Brad, get your information and I will have it actually there. At the end of the video, you'll be able to see the information on Brad, and I'm sure that he will be happy to speak with you. So have a great day, okay?
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.